Hey there, welcome back to another episode of Karishma Connect. In this episode, meet Rashi Ray, who's the co founder of Zero Budget Agency and director at Response India Private Limited, speaking to me about sustaining a legacy in branding and advertising, some real good real estate marketing tips, and a whole lot more in terms of trends to look out for in the field this year. Until the next one, stay tuned. This is Karishma. I'll be back yet again. Until then, tada.
Thank you so much, Rashi, for joining me on this episode of Karishma Connect. It's a pleasure to host you, and I can't wait to know more about a lot of things that you're doing that are very interesting. Thank you once again for your time.
I'm so glad. Thank you so much for having me. I saw some of your videos and you bring so much energy. So I'm really excited to have this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Wow, that makes my day, and I really look forward to bringing the same energy in this podcast as well. Now, the first question I ask
Hmm.
on the podcast is nobody will tell your journey better than you would. So I will leave that to
Ah,
you.
that's a really tough one. Very tough one. It's almost like an interview question, but okay. Let me try. Okay, so I have a very unique journey with my business because it was my father's business,
Mm,
and it's called Response,
mm,
and we work out of Calcutta.
mm,
We've always worked out of Calcutta. We've serviced clients all over the world from pretty much a headquarter, which is here. Now,
mm.
the interesting bit about our office is that we live in the same building that our office is in. So I have
Huh.
been going to office from when I was about three.
Wow.
Okay. So I have, seen
Yeah.
seen his journey from when I was young, and it's also right above my apartment.
Mm.
So, it was like a place to go to play when I was young. And then when I was older, it was exciting to just go and talk to so many creative people.
Yeah.
I never wanted to be in advertising, but,
Interesting.
one thing leads to another. And now I do it. Of course, I'm 35 and
Yeah.
I've been going up to office since I was technically three. So it
Yeah.
has been a very long journey.
Yeah.
Um, I started working very early as well. I started working when I was 18, from the
Okay.
time that I went to college, because I went to La Salle,
Mm.
which is a design school. And I didn't do the foundation year because they felt that they could accelerate me,
Mm.
fortunately,
Mm.
which is very good in Singapore because you have to do
Yes.
1 year less. Yeah.
Yes. I know.
So I studied communication.
Mm.
And I've been working with Response since then because I've been doing projects while I was in college. And then after college, as we were talking about earlier, interestingly, I wanted to stay in Singapore,
Mm.
but I came back for a vacation.
Mm.
And that time my dad was like, "Why don't you help me out? I need some help. There's this project we're doing. It's very young. You
Mm.
know, people here are too old to handle it. So why don't you handle it?" Of course, that was his way of trying to push me not to go back. I have a month. Let me try. And during that time, I really enjoyed working in Calcutta, and I also enjoyed the free space and time. And you know, you can work your own way, unlike Singapore, which is fairly rigid.
Mm.
So I did this rebranding exercise for a bookstore, which is
Mm.
fun.
Mm.
It's fun for a 20-year-old.
Yes.
And while doing that, I hired some people
Mm.
of, built a separate team, and then we built a different company called Zero Budget Agency.
Yeah.
And then that went on for 10 years. And then, I continued to work with Response as well. So now I run Response and Zero. In a nutshell, that has been my fairly long journey.
That's a perfect way to summarize it. My
Yeah.
next question was going to be exactly what you mentioned, that you're working for one, you're running another. How does that? What kind of
Okay,
mix?
so the way we are set up is because it is so we are in India. There aren't, I mean, now there are, but we were one of the first private agencies. We're
Mm.
40 years old. Response is a 40-year-old agency. I think with the oldest agency in the East, but there's no data, so I can't really check. But we have been around a while, and we've also run in our own way. So we run it, everything is very personal and very bespoke, but at the same time, we are very structured because of how long it's been. So both the agencies run in our own way. So it's not so difficult to run two companies. What we do now is, because people are different and the teams are different and the kind of work they do has a different DNA, we divide the clients in that manner.
Got it. Yeah.
And of course, we use the resources of both the companies when required, which also helps.
Yeah. Tell me, you have seen the industry evolve as a third party and then become an insider, and also at a young age, where I think where your view of the world or
I'm
whatever you
still
see
young. This is
is
a very
very
old industry.
no, like I mean as a kid.
And yeah.
So through the years, through your own evolution, basically, how would you assess the way the industry has evolved, from the eyes of that 3-year-old who would look at it and feel fascinated or
No,
whatever, and
so you mean if I go back a very long way, my teenage years and before that, before I could actually articulate and understand what was happening, I think that there was a lot of time, effort, energy spent on getting an ad right. You know, there was time spent on the craft. Every word, every word on a layout, or even if there was a stroke on a layout, you know, even if, let's say, it's just a frown line on somebody's face,
yeah,
it was planned. It
yeah,
was really, really crafted, and it was meant to run for a long time. So you created an ad with that much passion and care, and it was meant to run for 6 months or a year. And it was made with the idea that this will live,
yes,
and the next one will live, and the next one will live. And that's how legendary brands were built. And if you look at it today, the volume of work we do in a day is sheer mind-boggling. Like, even I can't sometimes keep track of how many pieces of work are going out in a
yeah,
day, and we still see every piece of work
yeah,
that goes out of the agency. So I think that time has really changed, in the sense the time spent on creative work has really changed. The time that a work is run for has really changed. Like social media, I mean, it's sometimes things become irrelevant in a few hours,
yeah,
whereas we're
right,
talking about content and campaigns that were meant to run for years, that they were built for people to remember. So if you really ask me, I think that has been the shift. Of course, technology, ways of creating, the kind of people you hire, all that has evolved and will keep evolving. But I think at its core, the communication is same. It's meant to do the same thing, but people's attention has become smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller,
very true, very true. But what's
and it's going
exciting?
to continue.
It's going to
What?
continue, yeah, and the attention spans are only getting lesser.
Yeah.
It's
I
only
mean, now
becoming
it's almost zero, so I don't know I don't know where we are now, but
true. What's exciting about this space part?
I think what's exciting is that every day is different, which I'm sure you've heard
Yeah,
multiple times. But I genuinely believe every day that we do the same work, and by same work, I mean the same kind of work, has been different for us. Because our clients have always been different, they've been in different situations, the market has been different. And of course, we are very agnostic about the type of creative work we do as an agency. So unlike other agencies who have, fixed kind of services they offer, we do anything creative. That's the way our team is built. So, we don't have lines, or, kind of, we don't fit into boxes of we will do this, this, this. So because of that, and because we're small enough to be agile and flexible, we're pretty different and personal in the way we handle clients. So that's what's exciting, right? Because we meet new people
yeah,
like you do.
yeah. Absolutely.
meeting new people all the time.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah. Absolutely. What makes it unique to be doing that in a place like Kolkata? And I'll tell you where I come from when I say this question, because I've had multiple entrepreneurs who have joined me from Kolkata, and I've had a fascinating time just witnessing the kind of growth curve that
Hmm.
particular state has had in terms of creativity, in terms of the growth of advertising, marketing, all of that. Tell me what's so special about doing it there.
See, Calcutta is an emotional city. Okay. Um, People are very logical, very educated, very opinionated, and of course, it's a very populated and large city.
Yeah.
And Bengal is a large market.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a very large market, um, both in terms of geography and demographics. It's vast and it's
Yes.
complex.
Yes. Very true.
And although I mean, of course, we do specialize in communications here, because
Mhm.
one of the things that we started doing, pioneered in this part of the world, is we started creating communications in Bengali.
Mm.
In fact, we have our own font, which
Uh,
we created
uh,
to be able to create modern advertising in Bengali.
Interesting.
Um, so, I mean, people here are, because of the complexity that people have here, I think it has pushed us to constantly improve ourselves to be able to cater to people here. In fact, I find it much easier to deal with clients outside of Calcutta and outside of Bengal and even outside of India than
Mm.
than creating communications here, because it's a very cluttered market. So just to stand out in this micro market is pretty
That's
hard.
a huge task.
But because when we are working for clients in other cities or in other countries, it's so fresh for us
Mm.
that the work is automatically different.
Mm. Mm. And also, those markets, I think, are more, like you said, rightfully, India as such is such a big market.
Yeah, India is such a complex market that when you work outside of India, you understand that how to connect with consumers far more easily.
Yeah.
People are far less complicated, far more logical.
For me, that evolution actually comes in the name itself. So you go from response to zero budget. I mean, there's an entire revolution.
Well, my journey's been from zero budget to response, but anyway, yeah. So I mean, we response is inherited,
Yeah.
and the name is also inherited because the company came with the name. I think it's always been a very, very appropriate name
Mm.
because whatever we do is to get a response.
Yes,
That's
very
the
true.
primary goal of any communication, that you want a
Yeah.
response. Even if it is a hoarding, you want people to feel something.
Yeah.
And to us, you know, so and it is in our DNA, because whenever we create something, our first thought is, how will people react to this? Not will they like it, will they not like it, but will they connect with it?
Mm. Mm.
Will they feel the communication?
Mm.
And that's actually the response that we try to create. It's partially instinctive because we have
Yeah.
to understand whether that will work.
Yeah.
And sometimes we fight for it, we really fight for it.
Yeah.
So, because we have also been around so long, that we do have our way with the communications that we put out.
Yeah.
We we like to put it out the way we feel is going to work. So when we started, we were one of the first over here to do communications that were more focused on digital content.
Okay.
And at that time, digital content was free.
Mm. Mm.
So the idea of Zero was to create powerful ideas which would kind of, you know, find its own audience and grow by itself.
Yeah.
So you would create a campaign, that had a strong enough idea to snowball. So you
Yeah.
didn't have to spend much media money. But of course, uh, media money was free, but doing the work was expensive
Yeah.
because you needed the best minds to come together to do that. But if you
Mm.
looked at it overall, I mean, you saved a lot of money. You didn't spend on media.
True. Actually, what if
It was,
you?
in fact, Zero Budget Agency's name was one of our best. strategies ever because it just drew so many clients.
Yeah, and also I mean, now it's no longer that. It's
No, but now because it has a client base and there's a reputation, that part of the story is forgotten.
yeah, yeah. Right.
Uh,
I read your bio, and what struck me was that it said design first and director later. When it comes to work, why do you think
it's
that
a
is important?
it's a very old bio. I should probably change it. But
Just,
when I
but I really liked it because I felt like
yeah,
to me that stood out as your passion preceded your
yeah,
purpose.
it does. It does. I feel like our product is everything. I love design. We're very design minded. We think design, and I don't mean graphic design, but we're creative thinkers.
Mm.
And for us, that comes before everything else. So I feel like if we're good at that, everything else falls into place.
Do you have
And
any?
for me as a person, it's more important than management is a responsibility, and I don't take it for granted. It's 80% of my time, managing the company, but that 20% that I spend on design or creative is very important.
What value do you think it brings in today's times? And I don't just, again, I don't mean graphic design. I mean, be it the customer, the user experience design that you're dealing with, or even something as simple as the design of a presentation. Why do you think it's important?
I think that design is the differentiator between you being okay and you being great. So no matter what you do. Okay, it can be as simple as somebody's business card or how
Mm,
they answer the phone
mm,
or how a place smells when you go in. And if you're able to apply that thinking
yeah,
for someone else or for yourself, I think it can make all the difference.
very true.
I mean, what do you do when two products are almost the same and four products are almost the same? I mean, how do you differentiate between them? You improve the product.
Yeah,
And you can only do that through better design.
very true. Yeah, I
But you
was
have to be
seeing.
design minded. I mean, you can't box it as this is graphic design and this is experience design and this is, you know, communication design. Can't do that.
It
I
requires
think
things.
that's also will be our strengths as we grow because almost everything that you can execute can be done, either by AI or, in much easier methods. But the ability to think is irreplaceable.
That is really true. Although I kind of keep pondering on that question because AI seems to be taking over every space of everything, especially as a
I,
writer.
I I mean,
It's just invaded so many spaces, although it's
yeah,
useful.
it has, and I think that it's great, and I'd really encourage my team to use AI. But I also feel, and I can understand that unless you can think really well, you can't make it think for you.
Right? True.
So
The pro-
you have to be able to be smart enough to use it well.
Very true. They say I was speaking to somebody the other day, and I said, it's about becoming a master of prompts now. It's not as much of that's
And to know when not to use it.
yeah, yeah, right.
I think people don't have that discussion. They
Yes,
just feel like it's the answer to everything.
yeah. They've started relying it for everything, which brings me to my next question. What's your advice for creatives of tomorrow?
Of tomorrow, I think you should be humble because you know that there's always so much to learn. Like, I think that we started work at a time when we realized that there was a lot of hard work required to actually learn the craft,
Yeah,
and it
right.
took some time to get somewhere.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, you couldn't just wake up one day and create a campaign that worked. No, so to know whatever is the next thing, you have to learn it. So you have to be
Mm,
curious and just teach yourself. The
mm.
same principles that we had. It's just that I guess our schooling was more old school, and
What it is?
we didn't. I mean, we grew up with the internet at the right time. I think.
Yes, very true.
I think that's the change that has happened.
Yeah, no doubt about it. What do you have to say around? You said you work with freelancers. you have an idea about the gig economy and the way it's helping us connect with different markets as well. What do you
Mhm.
think about it? What kind of value do you see in it as an entrepreneur, and what do you think about its survival in the long run?
So I think for us, and as an owner of a business and a creative business, I think that um, so I'm not a big fan of hiring freelancers all the
Mm,
time,
mm,
but sometimes I am very grateful that we found good minds and resources who we could hire as freelancers.
mm.
So, I'm a bit torn about it, if you really ask me, because I've had both good and bad experiences.
Yeah.
The reason we don't hire too many freelancers is because we have to keep quality control and time control, and that's
Mm.
something that's very hard when
Yes.
most of the work isn't done, uh, say, within the company, and also
Mm,
it requires a lot more coordination time and so on. But taking the operations out of it, I just think quality uh, is the biggest concern. But I also do think that it allows a lot of good resources to
mm,
connect with people and get work that they otherwise would not be able to. So I think as a talent
mm,
or a person who's able to provide or bring a specific skill to the table, I think that having good freelance opportunities is very good. But I think for that person in the long run, if you're not able to turn something out of it,
mm.
there will be, there will be a plateau, because beyond a point, how do you grow?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like for a business to keep hiring freelancers and growing is easy. But for a
Very.
freelancer, you'll plateau.
Yes. Right. Unless that's your career, like that's what you want to do in
You know
the
what happens is I think that when you're of a say if say you're 25
end.
and you begin to freelance, you'll make a lot more money
Mm, mm.
than you're working in an agency. But then after 5 years, you'll see that the person who's been in an agency is grown and you're
Yeah.
still in the same place.
Very true.
So that's the trade-off. So you have to know when to jump in and when to jump out.
Yeah. Very true. Are there any challenges that you've noticed about running an agency? Um,
Everyday stuff.
this, yeah,
We're
actually,
always firefighting. I mean, there's so much. I mean, you're because we're dealing with people all the time.
yeah,
There's no physical product, and
yeah,
people are complicated. So every day is a challenge.
yeah. Very true.
Everyone is a challenge. Every client is a challenge. Every day is a challenge. Every project is a challenge. But that's the fun to navigate out of that.
I feel like it also changes you personally. There are so many things that I feel personally. I mean, of course, being in the same field, I feel like it evolves you as a person and it teaches you so much about life. Do you think so too?
Yeah, I think so. I think I learned. I mean, you learn so much just working because you're talking to so many people. You're
Yeah.
hearing of so many things. And you do get to know people better than, I mean, at least here in Calcutta, where I work most of the time, people are friendly.
Mm,
So, you get to know about their lives,
mm,
which I think is the biggest learning
yeah.
in the work that we do. Just and you get a real soak into how other people think.
Mm,
People of all kinds. You're dealing with creative people, you're dealing with businessmen, you're dealing with politicians. It's on the
diverse.
same day.
Yeah.
You know, you learn
It's
to deal with people and things.
very true. Is there any particular work? Of course, now you'll tell me, Karishma, you're asking me such journey-oriented questions. But is there one piece of work that you're particularly proud of, or that you could share as an example to say that?
Hmm. You know, that that is a tough question, but
Yeah.
I'll tell you how I think about it. So every piece of work that we do, I'm proud of, because
Yeah.
unless I'm very happy with it, we try not to release it.
Mm,
Okay, so of course we have our favorites and we like some and we don't like some, but more or less we try and maintain a certain level. Sometimes when I look at our latest work, I think, wow, this is so good. And then when I see it a few years later, I'm like, what was this? What was I thinking? And then sometimes when I go back to work that is 15 years old or 10 years old, I'm like, wow, this is great.
Yeah.
So I think it really depends on the frame of mind
But is
and
there,
how you see.
why I'm asking you this is actually to understand whether there's a unique takeaway in it for the audience that is watching this podcast. Is there any particular recent work also you could talk about, just where you felt like a challenge was tackled in a rather innovative way?
I mean, yes, like, I mean, there are many examples. I'll give you one.
Hmm.
So we had a client that sold turmeric,
Hmm.
and the turmeric, we don't have that many food clients.
Hmm.
No, we have a lot of fashion and real estate,
Hmm.
media,
Hmm.
entertainment clients. We
Hmm.
don't always have food clients,
Okay.
but that particular client sold a turmeric, which was a mass market turmeric
Okay.
meant for everyday cooking, and
Yeah.
it just wasn't moving.
Huh.
And we kept doing ads and we kept doing ads, and the ads are really good, and they were still not working. So we figured out, look, there's some problem in the business.
Hmm.
It can't be our ads, of course. We're too proud to think our ads are not working. So we were quite convinced that there's something in the business.
Ah.
So it turns out that their turmeric was too good. And because it was too good, we
Okay.
needed half a spoon instead of 1 spoon,
Wow. Ah.
which was actually making the food too yellow and too bitter,
Ah.
right?
Okay.
So we figured out this by doing our own research.
Hmm.
And that's how we were able to solve the problem.
Okay.
Not through advertising, but actually understanding, look, what is wrong with this product? Why isn't it working?
Yeah. But there's
So,
an interesting point there about how research and going back to the product is also very important.
yeah, sometimes, I mean, we have to understand the product. Like we do so much real estate advertising.
Mm.
And the beauty of real estate advertising is when you're doing the advertising, the product doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Nothing exists, right? You
Yeah.
get a few drawings. And then
Yes.
from those drawings, you build a story. And from those stories, you build pictures. And then you show a life. And you're asking somebody to put all their money into that.
Yeah.
So it's a very tough category of advertising, which
Yes.
we have been doing for 30 years.
I want to ask you. I'm gonna ask you because this is like hot topic right now, especially where I'm based in New York. How have you managed to crack that? Because you're working in a market that has so many realtors putting their stuff out there, putting their
You
messaging.
know, I mean, I could probably proudly say that we're the best at it in this market. We have the largest or most in-depth real estate experience because we started working on real estate with the first organized brand, and we still work with them,
Mhm.
and the second and the third, and now we do most of the large builders here work with us, and it's because we understand how to turn those drawings into imaginable reality. And really, like
Can
we
you
we don't
elaborate?
exaggerate. Like,
What are some of
I
the
mean,
tactics?
because of the experience we've had in real estate, and because our team knows how to handle real estate work, we know how to give it shape without. I mean, now there are lots of laws. You know, you can't oversell. You can't put pictures that are not that you're not actually going to build like. So I mean, and I'm very glad that all this governing has happened because it has made our work easier.
Mm.
You know, but what we are very good at is in fact now we even get involved at the stage where the architect plans the project, and we understand the market, so we tell them that look, this is a need, this is the kind of homes people are looking for, this is the kind of offices people are looking for, let's build this into the project, and they design,
Mm.
and we start right from there, then the naming,
Mm.
then understanding what type of people will actually benefit from living there, how to um, show that about the project to them so they're interested,
Mm.
what price point it should be, you know, and how to kind of convince them by showing them the experience that they're going to have
Mm.
much before, you know, even the first brick is laid.
Mm.
So we've been able to do it, I think, mostly because of our experience. of doing it, and also because here again it's uh, one of those places where one of those types of clients where knowing the client really helps,
Yeah.
because they're so personally involved and you're personally involved, which doesn't so easily happen if you're a hands-off creative person. This
Yeah.
doesn't work out of a brief.
Yeah.
You have to
Because
understand the reality of it.
essentially, because it's essentially like they say here, like we've been having this conversation here as well within the media circle, that everyone's talking luxury. Everything is being redefined. Everything is, explore the extraordinary and exquisite and this and that. How do you? That's where my question came from. That where do you, find the differentiation and actually make a point, especially when you have like dime a dozen projects coming up every week.
So,
What can one
so
learn?
we okay, so half the projects that we have, there is a difference. And we're good at finding that within the project by studying it, by studying the surroundings, by seeing the plans, we can figure out that this combination is different because of this. That's half the
Mm.
projects. Of course, half the projects is the same, right? It's the
Yeah.
similar plot of land,
Yeah.
similar specs, similar everything. Even then, that's when we actually add by telling them that, look, this is something people are looking for, add this to your project.
To
So
get
like
what
recently
is the ground reality. Yeah.
recently yeah so like recently we did a project last
Mm.
year.
Mm.
I'll give you two examples. So one um, was a very low end project,
Mm.
a very affordable project, very nicely built for
Mm.
its category.
Mm.
So we figured that the audience that was buying into it, one of the important things to them was their family, and they would
Yeah.
be of the age where they were bringing up children.
Huh.
So we were like, why don't you make this project about facilities for children?
Mm.
And then let's talk about that. And
Mm.
that's something easy to add because you can add that into your landscaping without really adding a lot of cost.
Yeah.
So it made economic sense for them, and it made sense for us because we could kind of show them how it would be good for children. Not that other projects aren't, but you
Mm.
have to find that thing that you want to talk about, which will appeal to the audience you want to sell, and be able to build that into the product.
Yeah.
One example. The other example is a higher end project that we did recently, where it's a nice project. I wouldn't say it's that unique in the sense there's no other project like it, but it's one of the better projects that you would find in the city.
Mm.
But what we realized, and one of the good things is it had a European architect, which is
Mm.
rare here.
Mm. Mm.
Um, so what we realized is that the combination of things that it has is that it has a European architect. It's of a certain price bracket that is luxury but still affordable luxury.
Mm.
It's in a part of the city, which is still considered heart of the city,
Mm.
and it has certain other amenities. So the combination was unique. So it was a lifestyle that you would not otherwise get. So we were able to visually show that very graphically rather than the typical render photos.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
And the real draw of that was how we designed the communication rather than strategize the communication. Whereas the first one was more strategic and less
Yeah.
visual design. So it depends on the project and where it is and how receptive the client is.
But
Some
this is also very, sorry, you were saying.
I'm saying some clients are pretty like straight, like, look, this is what I have, this is what I want to say.
Mm.
How do I say it best? And then there are clients like these who really involve you in the process. So
There's an interesting point there to me wherein it's very important, I think, like you said, for marketing or advertising or comms, all of this to kind of be looked at as a key function from the very beginning,
yeah,
because it does make a big difference. And that to me is proof of what you just said, that the benefit of having that.
yeah. I mean, the earlier we get involved, the better it is for them and for us because we're part of we conceive the project with them. So we're able to build it into the thinking of the project rather than look, this is the product and this is the campaign.
Which is how it's normally looked at. People don't value it as a key function from the beginning.
No, I mean, at least here there has been a change.
Mm. That's good.
There has been a change, and also it's an important part of their functioning, because if they don't sell them, or if they don't sell early enough, or of course advertising also helps them get a premium. So it is an important thing for them to consider in real estate. I wouldn't say that about all industries, but because it also has a specific shelf life, right?
Yeah.
You know you're starting at this point and you have to exit at this point. So you have to make the most of it in
Well,
that period.
my last question to you, Rashi, is tell me what are some of the trends
Nine.
that you're looking forward to in 2025?
Um, I think 2025 will not be much different to the end of 2024, which is a lot of use of AI. I think that'll just keep growing. I think it'll make people a little lazier. So, discretion is useful. I
Right.
think I hope that there is more emphasis on design thinking rather than design execution, at least for the next 5 years. I think that will save a lot of agencies from losing business, because that's the real difference that agencies can make.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
I mean, you don't need a better copywriter, you need a better thinker. So I hope that, people understand that, including talent,
Mhm.
so that while they're learning skills, they can also learn to think through things.
Yeah.
It sounds so simple, but it's actually the hardest thing to do.
There's a huge shortage.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rashi, for joining me on this episode of Karishma Connect. It's a pleasure to have heard from you, and I look forward to sharing this one.
Thank you. I mean, it was such a nice, friendly conversation. I
Thank
really enjoyed talking to you.
Likewise. I felt like I mean for me this is a fun one because it's the same industry, so I have so many points and thoughts to share and truly learned for myself as well. So I'm sure the audience will enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
I'll just stop the recording 1 minute.
Yeah.